January 14th, 1998, 3 o'clock in the morning. The St. Hyacinthe Plateau in the province of Quebec, Canada. The outside temperature is 32 degrees Celsius below zero. On a steel transmission tower 47 meters high, the high-voltage conductors carrying 735,000 volts between the Manic 5 generating station and Montreal are coated in a layer of ice 8 centimeters thick. It is not wind. It is not lightning. It is not human error. It is the cable itself contracting in the extreme cold that begins to break. Over the following weeks, more than 1,000 steel towers will collapse like dominoes across the frozen landscape. We are used to looking up at the sky and seeing electrical wires hanging in a downward curve, interpreting that curve as a sign of aging, neglect, or poor installation. The truth is exactly the opposite. If those cables had been perfectly taut on the night of the Canadian collapse, the destruction would have been far greater, and it would have begun much sooner. Today, you will discover why high-voltage conductors are deliberately installed with a downward curve calculated to the millimeter, and how this apparent slack is actually one of the most sensitive equations in modern electrical engineering. And you will understand why pulling them completely tight would cause precisely the kind of collapse that the slack was designed to prevent. In the early 19th century, when the first telegraph lines began crossing vast territories, engineers encountered a problem that did not yet have a technical name. It was an era when copper wires were stretched manually between wooden poles, with tension adjusted by eye by workers who relied only on the cable's apparent stiffness. In 1844, when Samuel Morse inaugurated the first telegraph line between Washington and Baltimore, spanning 61 kilometers, the wires had to be reinstalled 3 times during the first winter. The reason was simple. On the coldest nights, the copper contracted, and what looked like a perfect installation in July snapped in January. Western Union reports written between 1851 and 1869 describe the repair routine in detail. Workers traveled stretches of up to 80 kilometers on horseback every day, locating breaks that occurred predominantly during cold early morning hours, always at the points of greatest mechanical stress near the ceramic insulators. For decades, the problem was treated as a material deficiency. Engineers tried stronger alloys, taller poles, and lower initial tension. None of those solutions fully resolved the central paradox. In 1882, when Thomas Edison inaugurated the first commercial electrical distribution network in Manhattan, with around 23 kilometers of underground cables serving 85 customers, the decision to bury the wires was partly an attempt to escape this thermal problem. But underground systems worked only on a small scale to transmit electricity between cities, across rivers, valleys, and mountains. There was no economical alternative to overhead lines. When Europe's first high-voltage transmission line entered service between Laufen am Neckar and Frankfurt, Germany, in 1891, spanning 175 kilometers and operating at 15,000 volts, engineers realized that they needed to understand mathematically exactly how a cable behaved throughout the day, the night, and the changing season. It was at that moment that the curve, once regarded as a defect to be eliminated, began to be studied as a parameter that had to be deliberately engineered. The problem was not preventing the cable from curving. The problem was calculating exactly how much it should curve so that, at every possible temperature, it would remain intact and safely above the ground. The downward curve formed by a cable between 2 towers has a precise mathematical name, a catenary. The term derives from the Latin word catena, meaning chain, and describes the shape assumed by any flexible, uniform body suspended between 2 points under the influence of its own weight alone. The catenary was described mathematically in 1691 by 3 scientists working independently: Johann Bernoulli, Christian Huygens, and Gottfried Leibniz. The equation describing its shape involves the hyperbolic cosine function and shows that this curve is the only possible configuration for a perfectly flexible cable at rest. In other words, when a cable is stretched between 2 points, the only shape it can assume under the laws of physics is a catenary. Pulling it into a perfectly straight line would require infinite force, because every real cable has mass and is subject to gravity. To understand the scale involved, a typical 500,000-volt transmission conductor used in Brazil, the ACSR rail, has a diameter of 29.6 millimeters and weighs approximately 1.6 kilograms per meter. When suspended between two towers 400 meters apart, a standard span on Brazilian furnace transmission line, that conductor carries 640 kilograms of its own weight between the two attachment points. To maintain a downward sag of 8 meters, the longitudinal mechanical tension at each end exceeds 3 metric tons force. If the sag were reduced by half, to 4 meters, the required tension would double, exceeding 6 metric tons. If all slack were eliminated and the conductor became perfectly straight, the theoretical tension would approach infinity. This means there is an inverse, non-linear relationship between how tight a cable appears and the mechanical force it must withstand. Cables that look straight are under catastrophically high mechanical tension. Cables that look loose are under controlled, safe tension. Engineers call this calculated slack sag, and it is the fundamental parameter that determines whether a transmission line is safe or deadly. During design, sag is specified for what is known as the operating temperature, generally between 50 and 75 degrees Celsius, accounting for the conductor's natural heating as electrical current passes through it. This heating, known as the Joule effect, depends on the current flowing through the conductor and the material's intrinsic resistance. During peak demand, a 500,000-volt conductor can reach internal temperatures of up to 90 degrees Celsius, even when the ambient temperature is a moderate 25 degrees, and the difference between an energized conductor and a de-energized one can produce sag variations of more than 1.2 meters within the same day. But what happens when the ambient temperature falls 20 degrees below that reference point? The answer lies in a property shared by every metal, yet rarely associated by ordinary people with the cables suspended above their heads. Linear thermal expansion. Every metal has a specific expansion coefficient, expressed as millimeters of change per meter of length for every degree Celsius of temperature variation. Aluminum, the principal material in modern high-voltage conductors, has a coefficient of 23 millionths per degree. Steel, used as internal reinforcement, has a coefficient of 11 millionths per degree. When a conductor heats up, it lengthens. When it cools, it contracts. Across a 400-meter transmission span, a 60 degrees Celsius difference between summer and winter produces a total change in length of more than 50 centimeters. Those 50 centimeters have to go somewhere. If the conductor were installed completely taut on a hot day, it would try to contract as the temperature fell at night, but it would have nowhere to move, creating internal tension that would add to the structural load. At temperatures below -20 degrees, that tension can double or triple, reaching the material's breaking limit. That was exactly the mechanism behind the Quebec collapse in January 1998. Hydro-Quebec's transmission lines, although designed to withstand ice, were subjected to a combination of extreme thermal contraction and radial ice buildup reaching 75 millimeters, more than 3 times the amount allowed for in the original 1965 design. The additional weight on each conductor exceeded 30 kilograms per meter, and the original sag, calculated to accommodate normal thermodynamic variation, was insufficient to absorb the simultaneous contraction of the frozen metal. More than 1,300 steel towers collapsed over 5 days. Around 1.4 million homes lost electricity at the height of the crisis, some for as long as 33 days. The damage totaled 5.4 billion Canadian dollars. 35 people died as a direct or indirect consequence of the blackout, mainly from hypothermia or carbon monoxide poisoning, while attempting to improvise alternative forms of indoor heating. The event forced a complete revision of overhead line design standards in cold climates, especially those concerning minimum safe sag calculation. Engineers began adding margins of 5 to 8 degrees Celsius to the extreme temperatures considered during design, and nominal sag was increased by as much as 18% in regions prone to ice storms. But cold is not the only enemy that calculated sag must overcome. Lines installed in deserts, such as the 765 kilovolt transmission corridor crossing western Texas, face the opposite problem. Operating temperatures that can exceed 95 degrees Celsius during peak summer demand. Under those conditions, the conductor lengthens visibly, and the sag increases enough to require taller towers and shorter spans. On August 14, 2003, during the blackout that affected 55 million people across the northeastern United States and southern Canada, one of the initiating causes was precisely the uncontrolled increase in sag on three 345,000-volt lines in Ohio. Overloaded with current, they lengthened until they touched the crowns of untrimmed trees, causing the short circuit that triggered the cascade of failures. The official report by the U.S.-Canada Power System Outage Task Force, published in 2004, found that each conductor had lengthened by more than 4 meters beyond its design sag in only 3 hours of thermal overload. Modern engineering approaches the problem of sag with a degree of precision unimaginable 50 years ago. Modern transmission conductors are almost always of the ACSR type, an acronym for Aluminum Conductor Steel Reinforced. They consist of a central core of galvanized steel strands, responsible for mechanical strength, surrounded by multiple outer layers of aluminum strands, responsible for electrical conduction. This dual configuration allows the conductor to combine two apparently incompatible properties: high conductivity and high tensile strength. The outer aluminum carries the current, while the inner steel bears the mechanical load. Beginning in the 2000s, a new generation emerged known as ACCC, which replaces the steel core with a carbon fiber composite wrapped in fiberglass. This composite core has a thermal expansion coefficient 10 times lower than that of traditional steel and allows the conductor to operate at temperatures as high as 180 degrees Celsius with minimal variation in sag. Lines equipped with ACCC conductors can carry up to 100% more current than equivalent ACSR lines, without requiring taller towers or redesigned spans. Modern sag calculations account for as many as 19 variables simultaneously: historical maximum and minimum ambient temperatures, maximum wind speed, maximum ice thickness, conductor weight per unit length, combined modulus of elasticity, metallurgical creep over 50 years of operation, solar radiation, relative humidity, and even the presence of industrial pollutants that may alter the thermal emissivity of the conductor's surface. These calculations are processed by specialized software such as PLS-KDD, used in more than 130 countries, which can simulate conductor behavior across its entire projected service life, typically between 40 and 70 years. The accuracy of these simulations reaches the centimeter. For every span between two towers, the software generates a specific curve, predicting the exact position of the conductor during every hour of the year, accounting for solar cycles, prevailing regional winds, and even projected vegetation growth nearby. When a line enters service, field crews verify the actual sag using laser theodolite and adjust the tensioning equipment on each span until the installed curve matches the calculated curve, with a maximum tolerance of 2%. The global scale of these systems is staggering. The planet's high-voltage transmission network totals approximately 7.5 million kilometers of overhead lines, supported by more than 40 million steel and concrete towers. In Brazil alone, the national interconnected system has around 175,000 kilometers of lines in operation, connecting 99% of the country's electricity consumers. Every meter of those conductors, without exception, was installed with sag individually calculated for the specific climate region in which it operates. In Roraima, where annual temperature variation rarely exceeds 12 degrees, the sag is proportionally smaller. In the mountainous regions of Santa Catarina, where occasional frosts reach -4 degrees, the sag is deliberately greater to absorb nighttime contraction without compromising mechanical integrity. Every transmission line is therefore a geographical signature expressed as a curve. But what no one expected And what engineers discovered only through specific catastrophes is that sag does not protect conductors only from thermal expansion. It also protects them from an aerodynamic phenomenon capable of destroying an entire transmission line within minutes, conductor galloping. When moderate winds, generally between 25 and 65 kilometers per hour, strike a conductor covered with an asymmetrical layer of ice, the cross-section is no longer cylindrical and begins behaving like a badly designed airplane wing. Alternating lift forces emerge, causing the conductor to oscillate vertically with amplitudes that can exceed 10 meters and frequencies between 0.1 and 1 hertz. This motion is known as galloping, and it generates dynamic stresses that can multiply the original static load by 6. Perfectly taut conductors would resonate with those vibrations, transmitting the impact directly into the towers. Conductors with adequate sag absorb much of the energy through the curve itself, dissipating it through microscopic deformations along the span. There is, however, a detail rarely mentioned outside technical manuals. In addition to galloping, there is a smaller, continuous phenomenon known as aeolian vibration, or Kármán vibration, with frequencies between 5 and 150 hertz and amplitudes of less than 3 centimeters. This almost imperceptible vibration is the primary cause of mechanical fatigue in transmission conductors. To counter it, engineers install small devices shaped like metal dumbbells called Stockbridge dampers, invented in 1925 by George Stockbridge, which tune into the oscillation frequencies and dissipate them through internal friction. A single 400-meter span may contain as many as 8 dampers distributed along its length. Without the combination of calculated sag and dampers, the service life of a conductor would fall from more than 50 years to less than 18 months. Modern engineering has therefore reached an apparently counterintuitive conclusion. The safest conductor is not the stiffest, but the one with the most precisely engineered flexibility. Slack is not failure. It is precise physical language. There is, therefore, a hidden layer of meaning in the downward curve visible whenever someone looks up at a transmission tower beside a highway. It is not neglect, aging, or improvisation. It is the geometric translation of an equation involving gravity, temperature, wind, ice, conductivity, and decades of metallurgical creep. Every illuminated home, every functioning hospital, and every operating factory ultimately depends on an engineer having calculated years earlier the exact amount of slack that conductor would need to survive both the coldest winter night and the hottest summer day. What appears to be a sign of carelessness is actually the most elegant safety margin physics has allowed electrical engineering. A perfectly taut conductor is an expensive, unstable, and deadly visual illusion. The downward curve is the only shape in which electricity has learned to travel safely for thousands of kilometers without breaking apart. The sky above our highways holds, within its silent geometry, the equation that sustains industrial civilization. If you enjoy discovering the invisible engineering behind things that seem ordinary, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It helps this content reach more people and motivates us to produce more videos like this.